an African American who is very Americanized and acts more white than black. Y'all, man.
Hi, I'm Lynn Marie Rosenberg. Welcome to Famous Cast Words, Quarantine Edition. I'm coming to you today from my Brooklyn apartment. I am joined by actor, writer, and percussionist William Jackson Harper. You might know William from Broadway's All the Way, HBO's High Maintenance, the Amazon series The Underground Railroad, and of course his Emmy and Critics' Choice nominated performance as Chidi on NBC's The Good Place. You might not know him from his high school production of Natalie Needs a Nightie, which somehow isn't porn, is what you're telling me? It is not porn.
It's not porn. Maybe it was meant to be racier than teens in Garland, Texas are allowed to portray on stage, but it's not porn. There's like a couple of different gender switching babies. There's a boss that needs to take a shower. That's the guy that I played. I don't remember much of it at all. I just remember a lot of closing doors and me holding a baby being confused at the gender switch.
I mean, it basically sounds like Shakespeare. It basically sounds like some of the greatest work. Now, you are joined in the home you're staying in currently with Chico, your unbelievably, I want to say expressive dog, but it's actually the opposite. I think Chico is trying to game on my deadpan. Like, I feel like his deadpan is the only one I've seen more intense than mine, and it makes me feel attacked, personally.
I mean, he's good at the deadpan. He is very funny on accident, very, very often.
Sometimes I think the greatest use of our skill sets that we can do is voicing actual dogs in real life of what they're thinking.
Chico sounds like a dude who found religion in jail. Like that's in my head, that's what he sounds like. You know, it's like, man, I haven't seen you in so long, man. How have you been, praise God? You know, like he's like that guy. Like,
that is the most descriptive and accurate metaphor you possibly could have offered. That is amazing. Years ago, you were on a kids show called The Electric Company, which is part of the public media family, as we are part of the public media family. What was it like to be famous from a children's show and the responsibility that comes from a children's show versus something like The Good Place, where you're finding yourself a celebrity now?
You know, the weirdest thing about it is, like, the kids that were watching it when it was on the air, they're like in college now.
Right.
And it's the weirdest thing to see a person that pretty much looks like an adult coming up to you and being like, hey, man, I remember watching you on The Electric Company when I was like a little kid, man. I love that show so much. And it's like taller than me, voice lower than mine, just more of a man than I will ever be.
Just a lot of beard, just a lot of beard.
Full-on beard, yeah. You know, teeth are all straight. They're taking care of themselves. You know, it's just like... I'm like, wow, you're like a full-grown, functioning human adult. And you watch me as like a little kid. That's always fun for me. But it is like, for folks that grew up watching that show, I don't want to be a don't let this happen to you type of person. I want to be the guy that lives down the street that you know that used to be on that show that you liked, and he's still around and he's just a guy. And so there is like there is a kind of responsibility that you feel. Like I don't know, it doesn't feel like celebrity. It just feels like more like you've made yourself a part of a kid's psyche. I want to protect that image a little bit. Yeah.
As I was pulling breakdowns for your episode today, it is so disturbing when you look at Black male roles, the language that is used, you know, that you see repeated over and over and over again. But I was thinking about your career, and you've had a really remarkable group of roles. Do you say no to things a lot in terms of poor representation, or?
I don't say no a lot just because a lot of those roles honestly don't come my way. For me, I've been really fortunate in that I've been able to sort of fall in the same lane as so many other Black actors and actresses that have sort of carved out a space that is outside of the sort of stereotypical white gaze, you know? And so it's, you know, I feel really lucky that I get to sort of like, you know, a lot of folks have already paved that path and I just get to jump right in. And, but no, I haven't really come up against it that much. I mean, a little bit here and there, but I go in and do my thing with it, which usually means that I don't get the part. But I mean, like, it's, I mean, like, I think it's, when I feel like it's an idea of blackness, you know, I sort of find myself just wanting to not do it or push against it in some way when I'm auditioning for it. So it's not necessarily like no, I don't want to, you know, represent that. It's more like, I'm going to do my thing and see how they like it. Oh, they didn't? Yeah, okay, well then fine. You know.
Do you have any true horror stories or on the other hand, any amazing stories that have occurred for you during your audition life?
I remember I went in for this show and they required an accent, but they didn't specify what kind of accent. And I've been doing Ruined, and I was like, okay, well, this is an accent that I've done most recently. I've done it for like a year. I'm gonna use this accent, and I definitely went in and did my own little thing with it. And at the end of it, they were just sort of like, okay, what accent was that? And I was like, oh, it's sort of like, you know, it's sort of rooted in this sort of French Congolese kind of thing. And they were like, okay, yeah, no. Can you do a British one instead? And I was like, I mean, I can, but we're both going to be worse people for what's about to happen now, you know? And so I mean, I did it and it was terrible and I was dismissed like so quickly.
Before getting cast on The Good Place, you had mentioned in an article that you were considering leaving the business. What was going on for you right before that dropped?
I was just tired. I was tired and I was getting bitter, you know?
Yeah.
I was getting angry, you know? I was actually working fine. I was doing a lot of off-Broadway stuff and some Broadway stuff and some on-camera stuff, but, you know, it just wasn't enough to actually, you know, keep me afloat. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's time to give something else a shot. And the thought of not being an actor anymore felt like a release. I was like, oh, I feel lighter. So I was like, well, I'll just do one more pilot season, have a good time and see what happens. And lo and behold, The Good Place came in.
You know, not to get too woo-woo about it, but there is something spiritually of like just saying, I'm okay with who I am, whether or not I'm booking roles or not. And that when that occurs, artistically, things start to sort of siphon into your life. Chidi in The Good Place is an expert in ethics and philosophy. I was curious, did working on a character that is engaged in ethics and philosophy shift how you sort of look at the world or how you approach thought in any way?
I mean, yeah. I mean, there have been some decisions that I've actively sort of gone back to what she would do.
Really?
Yeah. You know, one was regarding a job opportunity, actually, that I was like, is it okay to do this job? Or is this something that I would be sacrificing my personal moral stance to take the job? The thing that kept playing in my head when I was going through this whole thing was like, you know, there's this line that Chidi has, like, morals aren't morals when you pick and choose when to apply them. And so I was like, dang it! Like, I don't get to choose. I have to, I can't do it. And so I felt like a crazy person, but, you know, I in the end, I feel like I can look myself in the eye and I feel proud that I did not do it. It feels like that was the right choice. I don't feel any kind of regret over having not done that work.
I think any role we do, we get affected by any information gained through that exploration. Yeah. And I love leading one's life through the concept of what would Chidi do. I think we could all stand to focus a little more on WWCD.
Yeah.
Now you are a writer as well as being an actor. Have you been writing at all during quarantine?
I tried. I got like 30 pages of trash. I just don't have a whole lot cooking right now.
I can't write at all. There was something about this experience where I'm like, nope, I'm out. I can journal. That's about all I got.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've actually, because I did start something, and I called it 30 Pages of Trash. It's actually not. It's I'm actually interested in it, but like I realized that somewhere at its heart, Black suffering is taking center stage in the thing that I started to write, and I just don't want to do it. Because I remember talking to a woman after my play, and she was like, "Good play, but why is it that Black folks always got to be suffering and stuff?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like I was really just sort of writing, what was sort of fueling me, but I thought about it, and it stuck with me. And so when I sat down to write again, I was like, I'm doing this thing, and it's like it's juicing me because it's like I'm angry about something and I feel fired up. But then I was like, what am I going to say that is going to really be all that different from what other people have been saying for decades at this point? So I'm setting it aside until I can find a way into my personal experience that doesn't just deny the existence and the brutal history of racism in this country, but that doesn't put that center stage and put it in all of our faces to where it's something that like keeps beating us up.
Yeah. Yeah, writing is always a delicate balance in that regard because on the one hand, whatever you are angry about or feeling intensely is going to find its way onto the page. Like you don't have a choice. It's not going to give you any excuses.
I wonder if there's any use in, sort of forging this path where it's like, where you see microaggressions, you see what it is to just sort of deal in the world with where this is the past, but it's not always just hitting you in the face in the same way.
Yeah.
But it's something that pops up and you deal with it and it hurts and it stings, but it's not, we're not always in the 60s. We're not always in the 30s, 40s or in slavery. It's like, what is it to deal with it now? I want to, I kind of want to like lean more into that because I think that will, I think it can be healing. It can be something that we can all identify, but I also think it'll be something that will indict more people just because, it's really easy as, I think particular as like a white theater goer or a white viewer of anything to see all these really terrible racist white people and be like, well, that's not me and that would have never been me. Yeah. But when you are the person that's just sort of talking out of turn or engaging in the microaggression, it's like, oh snap, is that me? And I think I feel like that's useful. I feel like there's a lot of creators that are doing that. So I just want to figure out if I can do that too.
There takes a real digging into some ugly stuff that not everyone wants to participate in.
It sucks to realize that you are not the hero of the story, Yeah. And I think that that's something that a lot of Americans, in particular white Americans, are sort of having to run into a little bit, where it's like, no, there's like, that not all in all, it's like there's a lot of back and forth. It's like, the hero and the villain sort of exist in the same place. We're both things all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, when you come away with this narrative of the right thing was done all the time, it's not real.
So now we'll look at some language from breakdowns. As a reminder for those at home, breakdowns are the brief character descriptions used in the casting world. Will, where you are a Black man, I thought we would take this opportunity to see what sort of language pops up for Black male characters. I'll be sending you some breakdown language in the chat, and if you would be so kind as to read it for us.
All right.
Any good character description, of course, begins with a name. The good news is you can be absolutely certain what race they're looking for because it's often right there in the character's name.
2 black dudes. Hot black man. Homeless black guy.
And the character names will tell you exactly where they lived.
Boy in the hood. Hood rat. Corner boy 1.
I don't know if there was a corner boy number 2 or not.
Jesus.
The descriptions will give you clear information on what sort of things to wear.
Dressed urban style. Gold chains. Sloppy dresser with bandana around his head. Maybe one has a grill?
I always love when they put questions into breakdowns.
Yeah. I leave this to you guys, but maybe. Oh my God, dude.
As well as what sort of props you might need.
Must be comfortable. Oh, okay, hang on. Carries a rifle. Must be comfortable with guns. I am exceedingly uncomfortable with guns.
Oh, please,
By the way.
tell me about it. But I also like the idea that you're literally just carrying a rifle around.
Carrying a rifle.
That's a lot of equipment.
Lord, dude.
Generally, you can expect to embody a range of appearances.
Street. Scary looking. Tough looking. Rough around the edges. Monster-sized bodybuilder type.
With one category appearing more than others.
Gang look. Gangster type. Thug. Thug type. Thuggish.
I could wallpaper my apartment in the amount of breakdowns I have that have the word thug in it. But be prepared to stretch your range.
The whitest acting African American kid you've ever met. An African American who is very Americanized and acts more white than black. Y'all, man. Y'all. African American, but Americanized. So I'm not American. I'm not American.
That was real. That is, I mean, they're
Yo.
all real, but
See, that's the problem right there. That.
right?
Okay.
I mean, there is so
Yeah.
much baked into that sentence that is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there seems to be just one thing content makers need you for.
Selfish, dangerous, mean as hell, hot-tempered, belligerent. Rules through violence. Violent, soulless, heartless.
It just never ends. And lastly, you could see this language about which I have nothing funny to say and can't believe came from professional breakdowns.
A non-magical Negro. He embodies what an Uncle Tom is. Yo, okay.
Yo,
Yo, wait. All right. There. What fresh white hell is this?
yeah,
What the dude?
perfectly put. Yeah. I will
Whoa.
say that was from a while ago, so I don't know what sort of project it was. I mean, but by a while ago, I mean like within the last 5 years.
You know, you realize when you see these parts on TV and when you see them in movies that it's just meant to create fear, it's meant to create hatred, it's meant
Yeah.
it's like if this is what the idea is,
That's
you know,
right.
it's like this language, this is damaging. This is actively damaging to say that, you know, like hot-tempered, belligerent, rules through violence, violent, soulless, heartless. It's like, come on, man. Let's take very frightening and aggressive language and ideas and just put it in a nameless black body
Yes.
to be dispatched without anyone feeling any compunction about what's happened.
Yes.
You know, and it's like that's the sort of thing that makes people afraid.
I think sometimes breakdown writers, and they can be anyone in a production team. You know, it's there's many different people. For anyone who's not involved in the casting world, writers write them, producers write them, sometimes casting directors write them. You know, there's any number of people in the production team that could have had the hand in that language. But often I think they forget that these are instruments of employment. That's
Yeah.
actually what these are fundamentally. And this is not legal language. This is not, you would never see language like this make it if you were applying to be an actuary or applying to be a note,
Right.
to be a lawyer. None of this would pass. But for some reason, we have decided that instruments of employment in the entertainment industry can have this sort of really harmful language in it and that is just okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's harmful.
Yeah.
It's harmful. You know, like this is the narrative that so many people are fed that makes them afraid of each other. Honestly, this could be anybody, but it's reserved for Black men in particular. And I think that's the thing that's dangerous here. You know, it's like there are some scary white dudes that exist that, you know, and it's like I don't know why this particular sort of fear mongering is reserved for. Well, no, I think I know why, but
yeah,
you know, but it's like it's really awful that so many people just kind of participate.
And I also wonder, like, what does it feel like to read language like that about your demographic? You know, that is what is being written.
You know, for me, I'm just like, man, this is just lies. I don't know any of these dudes. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that's like these are not the dudes that I hang out with. These are not the dudes that I have ever hung out with at any point. It's like, man, it's like, you know, I walk around with my hoodie up all the time when I'm in New York, and it's like, okay, so just being a Black dude with a hoodie on, this language is what people are assuming of me. Yeah. And assuming of the people that I work with and that I hang out with and that I talk to and that I run into, you know, and it's like it's just a lie. It's just lies.
Yeah.
I think the thing that really gets me, though, and I find it really funny, but I think it's really telling, is an African American who is very Americanized and acts more white than Black. So by default, American equals white.
Absolutely, yeah.
And everyone else is a tourist and just visiting. And, you know, and I'm like, see, that's the problem, you know?
It's defaulting whiteness, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That annoys me. That, like, okay, so he's white and he's American, but a Black American is not really an American. It's something else.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's, you know, that is one plate of $5.99 hot bull. You know, it is just like, it's just annoying to me.
I just really wanted to ruin your day. That was my hope.
No, it's just, man, I know this exists. It's you know, it's always there. I think it's just like, I always like to be a part of the conversation, which is like, yo, we're not done. Like, this exists in a professional setting. These are the adjectives we use for Black men. Like, we're not done. We have some work to do.
Will, thank you so much for joining me today. As much as we have tormented you with breakdowns, it has been a delight to talk to you.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. And these breakdowns are hellacious. They make me want to fight.
And on that note, take care of each other and be professional. I mean, I think we found our take.